Welcome to Collaboration in Teams. My name is Gwynn Cadwallader, and I work in training and organizational development. I have a passion for efficient and effective practices, and I'm going to talk today about how to work in a collaborative manner inside Teams. This is not a deep dive into Microsoft Teams. Instead, I'll highlight some key features of ways I like to work in a collaborative manner, whether I'm working remotely or even once we get back to the office. I find Microsoft Teams to be a great tool. So today, first, we'll start by talking about how to collaborate within the chat feature in Teams. And then I'll transition to talking about how is that different if you're collaborating inside of a team or a channel. And then I'll touch briefly on co-authoring. What is it, and what are some best practices, and what are some cool features within the co-authoring? So why work in chat? So if I decide that I want to do some work in chat, I think about it in terms of, is this a short-term project? Is it quick, collaborative? An example is I was working on some graphics with some interns, and it was just going to be a one-time project. We were going to put these graphics together and then we were done. So that's a great way to work in chat. Chat saves the history of the conversation, so you can go back to it. So as they posted drafts of these infographics, I could go back and look at them if I needed references. But it's not meant to be a long-term storage. So I typically do not use the file feature with inside chat and store documents in there. It's not really meant to be a long-term storage area. One of the downsides of chat is if a new person is added to the chat, they don't have access to any of the previous conversations or files. They can be shared with them. So one of the things that I love about working inside Teams and inside the chat is that all the conversations, all the links and resources live here for everyone in this working group. So we can add the documents, as you can see on the screen, there's a PowerPoint uploaded. I can put links, you can put the link to your meeting, whatever it is. So this particular chat was started with 3 of us, and we wanted to have a quick conversation about some training that we were putting together as a team. And so I had a quick question. So really quickly, we found ourselves typing and then realized it would be so much more efficient if we would just have a conversation. So very quickly, you'll see in the upper right, I used the phone or video chat features right inside of the chat, and it calls everyone in your chat. So we could jump on the call really quickly, have a great conversation, talk about what we needed to resolve, and move on. Once you start to set up a few of these chats, it can be really helpful to name them. So you'll see that I named this one the GBAS MS Teams PD for professional development. And as this project moved on, we added more people to this chat, and we would typically use this as a place to have our conversations about the work that we were doing together, but also as a place to meet, since it's really handy to call people because it'll call everybody that's part of the chat. You do have the ability to do some formatting in your messages here. I personally think of chat as kind of a quick place. I don't tend to format, but it also has some nice emojis that you could add. You can put some fun GIFs in there as well. So where do the files live that you upload into chat? And this is a question people often ask me. So chat, which is different than how the Teams portion works, the files in chat will actually live in your OneDrive. And when you go to office.com, you'll find these files in a folder called Microsoft Teams Files. All right. Remember, OneDrive is private to you, and you can share permissions using a link to a folder or a file. But you want to think about this as your own personal cloud storage, right? So that's typically why I don't encourage people to store files that a group is going to be using inside of chat. So let's talk a little bit about how that's different inside of Microsoft Teams. So if I am going to do a long-term project with people that I'm going to work with for a while, or this is ongoing work that will continue to happen, I would use Teams instead of chat, right? So what you're seeing here are some of the advantages to using Teams. So we're inside a team, inside the general channel. And the general channel is usually the place where you post things that you want the whole team to use. So everyone that's in the team would have access to this information and these files. So what I highlighted there is just, there's a Word document uploaded. It's a case, some questions we're using for an activity for the color of money. One of the interns posted this. You can also see that this was right at the very beginning of us all working remotely. You know, they also posted the VPN access. This is great because as new people come onto the team, it's really easy to search and find these resources without people having to repost them. So that's one of the things that I like a lot about this. You can also announce tasks. So here, the owner of the task has posted, hey, you know, I put something new in Planner. If anybody has time, you know, go in and pick up the task. You can also use the forms, which is a great feature inside of Microsoft Teams. You can create polls, ways to get information. I don't know about all of you, but every time I try to use Doodle, I can never remember my password. So it takes me forever to get it set up because I have to make a new password. The beauty of using forms instead is that it's all part of your Gator link and you're already pretty much logged in. So think long-term if you're thinking teams and channels. So within a team, I recommend being pretty thoughtful about the organization that you do when you start the team. Try to think about the purpose of the team, what are they going to do, and then from there you can start to decide how many channels you need and what kind of organization that you would like. Within each channel, you will always have, you'll see the menu at the top, you'll always have posts, and this is where the conversation happens. But you also have the ability to add files and many other apps. So I often add a planner because it's one of my favorite apps within the Microsoft platform to use. But you can also use OneNote if that's like a notebook that where your group is, say, going to collect meeting minutes or common resources that everybody wants. You could put all of those into a OneNote. So you just click the plus and you can work through which additional apps you might want to add into your team. So remember that inside a team, all the files that are placed there are visible regardless of which channel you're in. They're visible to everyone on the team. So you want to pick a group of people that have a shared purpose that would need to be sharing information and having conversations about the work. One of my most favorite things is that by using these features, you eliminate the need to email documents to each other and do sort of that attachment tennis, right? Also, it eliminates the multiple versions. You can also use the @ symbol, which is a feature inside of Teams, and you can do an @ an individual, or you can do an @ an entire team. I like to use this if you're trying to do a notification, and you'll see there I highlighted one where I did an @ at the entire team. So I'm just saying, hey, the video is posted, come check it out. So I did that @ the entire team. That you also get a notification and you can search for those. You know, I can go in and search for my name and see how many times people had mentioned me so that I know what tasks people are expecting me to do. One last thing before I leave this screen to think about is if your group is new to this idea of teams, just make sure everyone understands what a thread is. So you can see Joe here at the top posted how the Planner team uses Planner. So I replied in that conversation, and you can see if people continue to reply in that thread, the whole thread stays together and it becomes sort of a grouped conversation. This is not necessarily intuitive to all people, so just a little bit of conversation about that can be helpful with your team. All right, so I just want to touch briefly on a few tips that I think are really helpful when you're working inside of a team. And one is this idea of doing a little bit of formatting with your post. So if you click the A with the little pencil down at the bottom of the screen, you actually get a nice window. And where I typed in subjects are searchable is a great place to put the specific topic of what this message and what you hope this thread or conversation will be about, because they are searchable. So if I'm going back later to look at feedback on my survey, if we write feedback on the survey as the subjects, those things are really easy to find. There are also all of the normal editing things like making things bold, italic. This is also where you can link directly to files. So very useful tools to use here. Also, a lot of people ask me about the announcements. So they're in that same window. So instead of a new conversation, you would go and do an announcement. And then you have the option to make them a little bit prettier or stand out a little bit more by choosing one of their standard illustrations, or you can upload your own to that. All right. So having all of your files inside of Teams is a real time saver. If your group already has good file management practices in place, you could just continue them here. If you do not, I encourage you to think of a consistent, well thought out naming structure. It's really helpful in the collaboration so people know exactly where to find the files that they're looking for. I also encourage people to use folders in the beginning. If you don't have a lot of files, it can be tempting to just place a lot of files in there. But as you work more and more in teams, you're going to find that you're going to want some good file management practices in place. So in this particular team, this is for fiscal onboarding, we have multiple channels, and you'll see I have moved to the stations channel. And inside, I selected, you have the breadcrumbs across the top, I selected pre-award. We have lots of different people that teach different topics for us in this. And so we not only organize them by topics, but then inside pre-award, we have, you know, a whole nother series of folders. You also have the ability to leave files outside of folders. So to do this, you can either do new and select a new folder or a new file, or you can upload something that you have already created. I have found it to be my best practice, since I'm using Teams a lot, to just get in the habit of starting all my new files right inside of Teams so that I don't have to upload them, and I also don't end up with multiple copies. So my personal motto and sort of ways that I hope many people will work is to think about this as one file, one place. So no more attachment tennis, no more multiple versions, wondering if you have the right one, just one file, one place that everyone works on the same file. One of the huge benefits of using this platform. So where do your files live when you put them inside of Teams? So they're going to live on your SharePoint drive. So the way that Teams works is every time you build a new team, the Microsoft platform creates some structure behind that. And so if your team is fiscal onboarding, everyone that's attached to that team will have access to all the files that are in that SharePoint. Doesn't matter which channel they're posted in, everyone on the team will have access to those files. So all teams come with SharePoint and a OneNote notebook affiliated behind the scenes. Whether you use those features or not, they are there for you. So we're getting to some of my really favorite features. And one is the ability to go back to that one document, one place. You can open these documents right inside of Teams. So this is a screenshot of what it looks like if you open a document inside Teams. Now I can edit this document right here. And you can see that on this particular example, many of my teammates have posted comments. You can see in the red there, someone where it says my name. Someone mentioned me to say specifically, hey, I reviewed this, this looks great. I find this structure really helpful because we're working in a little bit of chaos right now. But even when we're not, the pace of our work is pretty fast, and this just helps us be a little bit more efficient with our time. I also love that it keeps the history of the work so that at any point in time, I can go back and review what other people were thinking as we finalize these documents. You may need to click the edit document in order to start to edit this. I personally like to pop the documents out into a web browser or into my desktop app. I find that a little bit more efficient for me, and it tends to work a little bit faster. And you can also start a conversation right here. So once I populated this document and got some basic structure, basic information in it, I started a conversation and said, hey, to all my team members, please come and review and add information. And then it shows up in the post, and you can see all of their names are a little bit in that purpley blue color, and they get a little message that says, hey, your colleague posted this, right? And then we start our thread. So we had 22 replies here as we worked through this document. One of the other features that I really find to be useful about this is that the whole team, whether they were on this small work group or not, has access to the history. So if they're wondering how these decisions were made, they can quickly go back and read through the history, make some other comments, and so forth. So I want to show you one other example of ways that I like to work collaboratively inside of Teams. So in Microsoft Teams, you have the ability within a channel to make a call. And this is my colleague Diane, and she and I were working on some training, and we were collaborating together. And so we did a call right in there inside of Teams, and you can see that we also have a document up inside of Teams. Our whole history of everything that had happened, the PowerPoint, any drafts that we had, stays together for us in this way. And here we're working simultaneously in the document. We're having a conversation. She's working on one section, I'm working on another, and we're just typing away as we brainstorm and think about what we want this training to look like. As I mentioned before, I really like to open these on the web, and this is what it looks like. When you open them on the web, if both people have them open, you'll see that we have different colors. So Diane is blue and I'm red, and we can both type at the same time in this manner as well. You can also use the comments. So I did an @mention to Diane when I got done with a specific section to ask her if she could review that for me. Another feature that many of you may already be using is track changes, and that is also available here. And the way I personally decide which way I want to go is if I'm brainstorming, thinking about big concepts, we're working sort of simultaneously, we'll just go for it right in the document. However, if we've been working on this for a while and we're getting close to finalizing the documents and I'm asking multiple people to review, I prefer to use track changes so that I can see the original language and then make those final decisions. Most documents have an owner, and then the owner would kind of, reconcile all of the feedback together. But again, you would have all of the history. If you worry about multiple people working in a document and somebody messing things up, there is great version history, so you can always go back in time if you need to. Everyone at UF has access to the Microsoft Office products online, and they work whether you're on a Mac or a Windows machine. They work on old computers. So I encourage you to use these tools to collaborate with each other. Now, before I close, I just want to touch briefly on sync, and there's some wonderful videos out on the web for all of the Microsoft tools. Microsoft has put together a ton of 2-minute videos that will help you go back through any of these tools and learn how to use them a little bit better. But I just want to mention that sync is one of the features that would allow you to work in Teams, in the web, and then also on your desktop. And it's still one file, one place if you're using sync. So Excel is one of the software where the desktop version has more features and is more powerful. So for those of you that need those more powerful features, if you want to work off your desktop, you can use sync, and it still is one file, one place, one time. Also, just a way to think about how to keep that one file. So if you're attaching a document, you're making a copy, so there will be more than one file. If you're using the links and then people just click the link and go to the file, then you're sort of sticking with the one file, one place, which is a practice I think is really helpful. So I hope this information was helpful to you. We do quite a bit, as well as UF IT is doing some training in all of the Microsoft products. So I hope you will join one of the other trainings, and thank you for your time today.